Please rise for a flag salute.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This is a regularly scheduled public session of the Woodridge Board of Education and is in compliance with the Open Public Meeting Act, Chapter 231, Public Laws of 1975, also known as the Sunshine Law. This meeting has been approved by a resolution adopted by the reorganization meeting held on January 3rd, 2022. Notification has been sent to the record. Notification has been posted to the Woodridge Borough Hall, the Woodridge Memorial Library, tapinto.net, and the Woodridge Board of Education website. Please be advised that all or a portion of this meeting is being live streamed in real time and will be recorded for rebroadcasting at a future date. Roll call.
Mr. Fallon,
Present.
Mr. Gorvin,
Here.
Mr. O'Byrne,
Here.
Mr. Vaccaro is absent, Mr. Biamonte,
Present.
and Mr. Nieves is absent.
Okay, on to personal presentations, recognitions, and awards. Student Representative Nicole Kickert.
So for this month, last week, we just had our youth government night at the mayor and council meeting where about 40 seniors participated at the meeting. This Friday, there will be a spring fling dance held at Woodridge High School for grades 9 through 12. Yearbook ads are still on sale for businesses and family members to purchase. And on April 9th, we'll be having a Big Buddy Day where our high school students will be working with special needs students from Woodridge by having an Easter egg hunt and other activities planned. And tickets are on sale for our school musical Annie, which takes place on April 8th and 9th at 7 p.m. and April 10th at 2 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kickert. On to Mr. Albro.
I'm going to head down to the podium.
Okay.
Good evening. This evening, I have to report out on the NJ-SLA science results, which were administered in the spring of 2019, obviously prior to COVID. These results should have been reported out at an earlier time. It was overlooked, and the Bergen County CUSAC monitoring group requested that I report out these results as soon as possible, and that's what I'm doing this evening. A reminder, we will resume NJ-SLA testing in a few weeks, towards the beginning of May, and this will be the first administration of those assessments since the spring of 2019. The NJ-SLA Science Assessment is a federally required state assessment administered to students in grades 5, 8, and 11. It provides a snapshot of student performance on the NJ-SLS Science. It was developed in collaboration with New Jersey educators, New Jersey Department of Ed, and New Jersey's contracted science vendors. It's significantly different from the New Jersey Assessment of Skills and Knowledge, formerly known as NJ-ASK, because NJ-SLS Science are more rigorous standards, and NJ-SLA Science focuses on the application of science knowledge and skills rather than the memorization of content. So this is the first time that our students have taken this actual assessment in 19, and they'll take it again this year. Grades 5, 8, and 11 are assigned to take this assessment each spring. So obviously, given the time, our 11th graders have graduated our high school. Our 8th graders in 19 will take it as 11th graders this year, and our 5th graders in 19 will take it as 8th graders. So the first piece of data involves the number of students who were eligible to take the assessment and the percentage of students that successfully completed the assessment. Following the assessment, we get our results, and we compare our results to the state. And you want to be in level 3 or 4, and not so much in level 1 or 2. So you can see from looking at the data, our 5th graders, in comparison to our state counterparts, did score better in levels 3 or 4, whereas in grades 8 and 11, our 8th graders and juniors at the time, the state outscored us in this assessment. With NJSLA in language arts, math, and science, we now have 4 ratings. Level 1, where students demonstrate a minimal understanding of NJSLS science by misinterpreting information from a variety of sources, for example, text, charts, graphs, and tables, and inconsistently applying the knowledge gained from scientific investigations to develop incorrect explanations or models of observed phenomena. Level 2, students who are at level 2 demonstrated a limited grade level understanding of the standards by partially interpreting information from a variety of sources and inconsistently applying the knowledge gained from scientific investigations to develop incomplete explanations or models of observed phenomena. So level 2 is approaching meeting standards. Level 3 is where we meet standards, and we're demonstrating appropriate grade level understanding of those standards by comprehending information from a variety of sources and applying the knowledge gained from scientific investigations to develop accurate explanations and models of observed phenomena. And finally, level 4, where we're exceeding standard expectations, a level 4 student demonstrates advanced understanding of the standards by integrating information from a variety of sources and analyzing the knowledge gained from scientific investigations to develop sophisticated explanations and models of observed phenomena. In comparing our subgroups, any subgroup that has more than 10 students will be accounted for in these slides. So in this slide, we're comparing our subgroups of race. In 2018-19, we had all as one whole group. We had Hispanic or Latin American as one subgroup, and we had white as another subgroup. So you can see grade 5, grade 8, and grade 11 in terms of their number, percentage proficient or reaching 3 or 4 on the assessment. Another way to break out the data is by an additional subgroup, students with disabilities and/or Section 504 plans as compared to the rest of the population. And if you see an N, that implies that there were not enough students in that group. If you see a 0%, that means we had enough students in the group, however, no one passed the assessment. Economic disadvantaged performance, we're comparing all of our students to those students who are economically disadvantaged and in comparison to those who are non-economically disadvantaged. How can we use data from this assessment? We use it to evaluate our district science curriculum and school and classroom instruction. Review the data. Each group will meet with building administration to review overall performance data of the school and of individual student strengths and weaknesses. This data, in combination with classroom level data collected through formative, summative, and benchmark assessments, can provide the district feedback on student strengths and weaknesses with particular skills. We're going to become more familiar with the test. Teachers and students should become familiar with the test for their grade level. We're going to work on created sample task-based exercises on each unit that can be used throughout the year to reinforce learning, because as we mentioned earlier in the slides, the transition from NJ Ask to NJ SLS really involves more than just rote memorization, but the application of skills. Why did we need this new test? Because it measures the new rigorous standards of NJ SLS science. We adopted these standards in 2014, and then on the timeline, they were fully implemented in 2017, and then they were assessed in 2019. So in our spring assessment now, that'll be our second full assessment using this particular assessment. How will they be utilized in CUSAC? Starting this year, our results will be factored into CUSAC moving forward and compared to the previous administration. Currently, the NJSLA Science Assessment is not a state graduation assessment requirement. Why do scores look different from those of the previous state science tests? We have different rating system where 1, 2, 3, and 4. We have new expectations based upon the revised standards. And again, the state emphasizes the fact that NJ Ask was more an emphasis on the memorization of content and not the application of skills. This is how, moving forward, this is how we can use our data in the schools. This is actually posted on our website right now, so there are some links in here for more information. And that concludes my report.
Okay, moving on to the superintendent's report.
Good evening. In presenting my report this evening, I open with wishing everyone a happy spring, but I fear that Mother Nature did not get the message. Please note that our next Board of Education meeting is scheduled for April 11th, and I wish to list some activities slated to take place in our district between today and our next meeting. On Wednesday, March 30th, the district will be hosting an in-person wellness fair, which will be organized by our Woodridge Parent Advisory Network in conjunction with our on-site Care Plus clinician. It will take place in the high school gymnasium, and admission is free. It'll start at 6 p.m. and conclude at 7:30 p.m. Currently, we have 13 different agencies or vendors visiting to present parts of their programs to all those who participate. April is recognized as Autism Awareness Month. Our district will be promoting a variety of fundraisers to benefit Autism Speaks and other charities. In addition, Woodridge has been invited to buy tickets at an autism acceptance match sponsored by the New York Red Bulls Soccer Club on Saturday, April 9th. This match will take place at 4 p.m. at the Red Bull Stadium. Flyers will be sent home electronically in the coming days. I believe a mailing went out this evening as well. It is my understanding that Woodridge will be designated to be seated in a specific section of the stadium, and it would certainly be wonderful to see everyone attending wearing their Woodridge blue. Another very exciting April event will be the return of our Big Buddies, Little Buddies program, which will take place on Saturday morning, April 9th, beginning at 9 a.m. on our high school field, weather permitting, or in the gym should the weather not cooperate. I do understand that there's a strong possibility that the Easter Bunny will be in the area, perhaps at 7-Eleven getting some coffee. This is our first in-person Woodridge Parent Advisory Network event in quite some time. As many of you are aware, the WRPAN is a parent-organized group that provides guidance, advocacy, and education to parents and caregivers of students with disabilities. It's a terrific collaboration between WRPAN and the school system and the many volunteers that help to make these types of events happen. This is a wonderful program where our big buddies of high school age get to socialize and hunt for eggs with their little buddies of elementary age. And we are most grateful for all of the volunteer involvement and various donations to the program. I think that regardless of age, hunting for Easter eggs is pretty exciting. On Friday, April 1st, we will be closing out our third academic marking period of the school year. Each school will be sharing information regarding the dates when report cards will be posted in real time for viewing. This weekend, the high school will open their spring athletic season, and I offer best wishes to all of our athletes and coaches, and most importantly to our senior student athletes as they participate in their last high school athletic season. Our boys volleyball season will begin on Friday, April 1st, 2022. They will travel to Passaic Charter High School in the first match of our school's history. Our softball team will open up on Saturday, April 2nd, when they host Cliffside Park at 10 a.m. at the RAC. Our baseball team will open up on Saturday, April 2nd at 2:30 p.m. when they host Emerson at 2:30 p.m. at the RAC. Our boys and girls track team will open up on Monday, April 4th, when they travel or run to Hasbrook Heights. Our high school students will participate in an assembly led by former NFL player and motivational speaker, Mr. Lee Rusan. Mr. Rusan will discuss topics relative to developing a purposeful identity and displaying grit, determination, and resiliency. Our high school spring musical show, Annie, will be presented on the following dates: Friday, April 8th at 7 p.m., Saturday, April 9th at 7 p.m., and Sunday, April 10th at 1 p.m. Best of luck to our senior performers, as well as to those seniors who help behind the scenes as they perform in their last show of their high school years. I'm sure information will be going out shortly about how to get tickets for the event. On our agenda this evening, we'll be approving our Summer Learning Acceleration Program, which will provide targeted remediation and enrichment to our district students. We will also be approving our Extended School Year Program that serves our students with disabilities population. Information regarding these programs will be shared in the days following tonight's board meeting. We are also making two very exciting appointments with regards to personnel this evening. As many of you are aware, Mr. Rowley, one of our high school counselors, will be moving on to a different district pretty soon, and we wish him well. And in preparation for that vacancy, I'm pleased to announce that Mrs. Maria Barros, a most familiar name in our district, will be returning to fill that position for the remainder of the school year. The district will continue the interview process and have Mr. Rowley's permanent replacement in place for the next school year. We are also most pleased and fortunate to welcome back Mrs. Deborah Pagliocca, as she has decided to be added to our substitute teaching staff list. Our substitute staff list continues to grow as we come out of the pandemic, and having Mrs. Pags return to provide this type of service is most beneficial for our students. This evening, the board will be approving the preliminary budget for the 22-23 school year. Once approved, it will be submitted to the Bergen County Education Offices for additional review and approval. Upon receiving approval from the county, Mrs. Murray, our business administrator, will be presenting the budget in a public hearing during our second April board meeting. Thank you to Mrs. Murray and her staff, as well as to the building administrators, for their hard work needed to put this budget together. Mr. Fallon, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Arbro. Approval of minutes. Upon recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education approved the minutes of the executive and public sessions for the meeting date of March 14th, 2022. Motion? Chris?
I'll second.
Roll call?
Mr. Fallon,
Yes.
Mr. Garvin,
Yes.
Mr. O'Byrne,
Yes.
Mr. Vaccaro is absent, Mr. Biamonte,
Yes.
and Mr. Nieves is absent.
Trustee, is it okay if I go through the committee reports? All right. Looking for your approval on curriculum instruction, approval to terminate out-of-district placement, approval of out-of-district placements, approval of field trip requests, approval of district-wide summer learning acceleration program, approval extended school year program, approval of professional development requests, approval of request for extension of leave of absence under personnel, approval of personnel appointment, approval of chaperones, approval of salary revision for the administrative personnel, approval of appointment for substitute, under policy, approval of policies, approval of regulations, under buildings and ground, approval of facility requests, under finance, we have approval of the bills list, approval of the monthly financial reports and board secretary and treasurer, approval of certification of a balanced budget, approval of budget transfers, approval of fundraisers, approval of budget funds and transfers for the 2022-2023 school year, approval of maximum travel reimbursement of the 2022-2023 school year, approval of NJSEMI corrective action plan for the 2021-2022 school year, approval of acceptance of donation. Under board operations, approval of the submission of the MOA between Woodridge Administrators Association and the Woodridge Board of Education, for a one-year contract of July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022. Approval of grit, perseverance, and resilience in-person presentation to students grades 7 through 12. Approval of affirmation of superintendent's report of incidents of harassment, intimidation, and bullying within the district. Approval of renewal of agreement with the Educational Data Services, Inc., ED Data, for 2022-2023 school year. Approval of contract with Albright LLC. Approval of agreement with OR Yisroel of New Jersey Non-Public School to employ Gabriel Benoon in the NJ STEM Initiative, August 30th, 2022 to June 17th, 2023. Approval of royalty agreement between Ofo Prince Inc. and the Woodridge Board of Education for the sale of clothing in the local area stores. Trustees, we will be tabling policy 1A, board operations 1, and personnel 4. Anything for new business? No? Okay, open up the hearing of citizens to resolutions only. When you come to the podium, please be sure to speak into the microphone so that it gets picked up on the recordings.
Good evening, Bonnie Taylor, 64 Woodridge Street. Give me just a moment up my question. I'm happy to see the new technology. This is exciting. We needed it, so that's positive. Question for the board, approval for the corrective action plan for the 2020-2021 school year, where the school district did not meet 90% parental consent response and are 100% of budgeted revenue by the end of the school year. Can you please explain what that means? Did the board not seek parental input for this budget? I just need some feedback on that, please.
Mrs. Taylor, this is for the semi-revenue that we get for medical services offered to the students who are on Medicaid eligible. And many of the parents are hesitant to sign off on the semi-services to have their, I guess there's I'm not sure why, but our team is working to get more signatures from these parents going forward. So because we don't get the signatures, we can't get the revenue.
Okay, I appreciate that, Ms. Murray, but isn't this the second time that we've had this citation for a corrective action plan on the same situation?
Yes.
So what is our child study team doing to make sure that we have parental input when it comes to the needs for our school district to have funding for our special education students? How are we informing our special education parents that this is important for their students?
It's my understanding that during the IEP meetings, it is brought to the attention of the parents and explained, and there still seems to be some hesitancy. We're hoping this year, maybe taking a different approach on getting the parents more willing to sign off on it and not look at it as a negative, but as a positive.
Perhaps some parent information sessions would be beneficial in this circumstance so that we don't see our district continuously having the same corrective action plan for something that is easily explained if in the right frame. So thank you for that.
Doesn't it also mean that students that are not eligible for Medicaid, isn't that included in those numbers as well? Or is this strictly? It's
Strictly Medicaid.
Not filling it out.
You know, just to follow up, Mrs. Taylor, maybe we have to better educate the parents as to the purpose here, so.
Well, I do know that it is a process because then it's a whole Medicaid application of sorts. So there becomes a little bit more involved than just, oh, well, let me sign off on this paper. There is things that have to happen for the parents to fill out and see if they're available and can actually get Medicaid or not. And I think that's where a lot of the hesitation comes in. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's important information. Faith Armenitis, 191 Oldfield Ave. I have a question on page 17, the proposed budget. So I don't know if this is a Mrs. Murray question. So this went to the county today, right? They have to bless it and then it comes back to you. Does any of this include money coming back from the state, or are you still waiting on that number?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure.
State aid.
State aid is included
Is
in
here.
there. Yep.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none, hearing none, closing the hearing of citizens. Trustees, looking for your approval on the following resolutions, Munaki included. Curriculum of instruction, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Personnel, 1, 2, 3, 5. Policy 1B through 1K and number 2. Finance, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Board operations, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Motion?
Second.
Dylan? That's okay. Kristen. Roll call? Yes.
It didn't work. Mr. Fallon?
Yes.
Mr. Garvin?
Yes, but I have to abstain from the field trip going to the 9/11 memorial.
Mr. O'Byrne?
Yes.
Mr. Vaccaro is absent. Mr. Biamonte?
Yes.
Mr. Nieves is absent.
Okay, Woodridge only, curriculum instruction number 6, personnel number 1, buildings and ground number 1. Motion?
I'll make a motion. Second.
Biamonte, second. Dylan? Mr. O'Byrne? Roll call?
Mr. Fallon?
Yes.
Mr. Garvin?
Yes.
Mr. O'Byrne?
Yes.
Mr. Vaccaro is absent. Mr. Biamonte?
Yes.
Mr. Nieves is absent.
Okay. Opening up to hearing of citizens. For anything you'd like to ask, just please remember to talk into the microphone for the recordings. Anyone?
Bonnie Taylor, 64 Woodridge Street. Mr. Fallon, I'd like you to look into that because I believe that the waiver is either you're eligible or ineligible for Medicaid, and that would suffice for our compliance for the district.
Yes, but in order to determine that you're not eligible, you do need to fill out the paperwork to determine you're not eligible.
I'm not sure, so I'd like some a clarification in regards to that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, Gabrielle Lemage, 209 J Street. I have a question about something you guys had mentioned a really long time ago, but never followed up on. You guys had talked about maybe like staggering the pickup and drop off times at the 3 different schools. And I was just wondering if that was something that was still on the table or that you had thought any more about.
At the current time, the high school is on its own schedule, and right now, the intermediate school and Doyle are on the same dismissal and entrance schedule. It is something that has been brought to the board in the past. I can tell you right now at this time, it's not something that we're discussing, but does not mean it won't be discussed before the end of the year. There are a variety of factors that go into that, and not the least of which is the teacher's contract, its starting, stop times, et cetera. But it is something that quite honestly prompted the beginning of before care and the extension of aftercare to try to help accommodate those parents that have children in both buildings. But it's definitely something that the board can continue to look at.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else on the floor? Okay, closing the hearing of citizens to the floor. We do have an email. Go ahead.
We received an email, to whom this may concern. My name is Ernesto Giancarelli. My son will be in kindergarten in the coming school year. When and how does registration take place? He currently attends a Montessori school. Thank you.
Mr. and Mrs. Gencarelli, if you're watching this evening, you can visit our school website for Doyle School. In the left column is information about registration. Additionally, you can contact the Doyle School tomorrow morning, and I, of course, will respond directly to your email. Thank you.
Okay, closing the hearing of citizens. Anything for communications? One out of order. Unfinished business? Motion to adjourn? Second? Mr. Garvin? Okay, thank you.
Mr. Fallon, good job.
Thank you, sir.